The following presentation is rated 14A. This presentation deals with mature subject matter and contains scenes with violence and coarse language. Viewer discretion is advised.
So, he's a little fucker, and I figured out, fuck. And, I didn't have to fight him.
The only guy who's gone to the dressing room. There's the lineup. They're going at it right away. Looks like Ty Domi with Probert.
Probert and Domi going at it off the face-off.
So I just said, fuck, let's go. Give him a chance. Give him a chance at the title. Macho Man wants a shot at the title.
Probert's got a mad on now. He knows Domi's a tough kid, and Domi's been threatening to do this fight for a long time.
Yeah, he goes to Macho Man, a big-time wrestler. He said, you little fucker, come on.
Home folks here. Look at this, boys, oh boys. Look out, did he ever ding Probert with a left there?
He fought, and he fucking got a lucky one, just kind of grazed me and cut me.
Oh, Probert stroked him in that one.
That was, 30 seconds or something.
Oh, Jesus.
We still fighting, and then the rest kind of jumped in before it was really over.
Holy mackerel, look at him. Holy smoke, do you believe this? Probert is cut badly. Yeah, he caught him over the right eye.
Then he went to the box and did one of these, He's a fucking joker.
Wrestling was becoming a real entertainment thing at the time, and there's Hulk Hogan and Macho Man and Bret Hart, and these guys were, really living it up. And I think I was kind of trying to transition that into hockey a little bit.
I didn't get beat, he just got lucky. It wasn't a solid punch. This guy came across and just nicked me. He started looking off to the press saying how, he kicked my ass more or less, and we'll see him again when he comes to New York, this and that. Just made a big fucking hype over.
The second one was, obviously the hype and the New York Times front page and everything else. It was like a boxing match. Frazier Ali, they had the size difference and all that stuff. And he had the advantage for sure, but he had the smarts going in.
They have tried to put the emphasis on hockey and not fighting, but tonight there isn't much they can do about it as the Detroit Red Wings face the Rangers in New York. Actually, it's about Ty Domi of the Rangers and Bob Probert of the Red Wings.
I'm not scared of anybody, but I'm not backing out or anything. I'm going to stick up for my teammates, like I said, and the whole idea is to help this team win and back my teammates up.
Are you getting a little tired of having...
They asked me questions, and I said, no comment. I said, if that's what he's got to say, that's fine, but I have no comment. And I didn't feed into the bullshit or nothing. I just stayed right out of it.
I'm sure I'll see him then.
So he's lined up across from me. I said, hey, come on, you little fucking dummy. Let's fucking get it over with. Just know when I'm ready at my time. And fuck this. Come on, you little fucker.
Here we go. Bingo, here we go. Look out, baby. Probert's got the boxing gloves on. He is ready for Domi. 7 punches, 8. Bingo, there we're going at it.
He was like, I'm telling you, his eyes were like light bulbs.
I've heard announcers say, I get stronger as the fight goes on. You want to win so badly that you kind of overcome your tiredness.
Look at these two hammered each other. Probert just missing with a big roundhouse. He smacked him, Domi hit him with one there. Jeez, look at this. My goodness. Domi just stood there and took about 6 punches from Probert. Look at this. Now this is where Probert's dangerous. Look at this. Yeah, late in the fight he does get stronger as he goes on. Oh, he smacked him with a right there, knocked him down. Look at that Red Wing bench.
After the first period, I know he had bumps. So he said, he's fucking laying on the training table with fucking ice packs on his head. Yeah, he didn't hit me at all. I didn't have a mark on me. So on the way to the box, they showed Stevie on our bench going like this.
Look at Eisenman, the captain there, with the sign. The whole bench is mocking Domi with the championship belt. Oh, my goodness.
Well, for Stevie to do something like that, he was pretty pumped, eh? Like Don Cherry says, Did you ever see a fan get up for coffee when the fight was going on? Did you see anybody get out of their seats and go for coffee? You know, there had to be a lot of people there that were against fighting, but they didn't leave.
20,000 people there going nuts, and you people that don't like fighting, how many of you did you walk out and get a coffee while that was on?
Oh, cool. Ask ADL to open it for you.
Oh, is that ever awesome? Wow.
I'll give him a scan.
Hang on. And the badge and these here.
Yeah.
The whistle.
Whistle.
Is that the whistle from that?
Box key. It's difficult to get that through the airport with the handcuffs in it, of course.
Wow. My dad was big. My father was like my size, my brother's size. He was 6'3", you know, 220, 225. He was a cop. He was one of the cops, and he was tough. And yeah, I think both of us boys kind of took after him. He was in the Army. He was in Germany and stuff. And when he got out of the Army, then he went right into the police. We're just trying to be strong. Like, that was kind of instilled in us, like, don't cry, be tough kind of thing. So, you know, it was one of those things where you cried at night away from everyone, because they didn't want people to think you're kind of, you know, a big wimp.
You can't be a wimp or anything. You have to be strong, and that's what they did.
Well, I was on the police department with Bobby's dad, Al. As a matter of fact, we rode motorcycle together. Way things are scrutinized for police today. I mean, we probably had a more open hand with our police work then.
I'll never forget, Al had this guy out front of the place on, and the guy had wrapped himself around this parking meter. I'll never forget this. And Al said, he's trying to get his hands off so he could handcuff him. He wouldn't let go of the parking. He just wrapped himself right around him. So Al KO'd him with a nightstick. I mean, they split him like a melon. And down the guy goes. It was a brawl. But right after, he said to me his famous line, "Now, what do you think? What do you think?" I said, "Well, Al, it's a little late now when I think this guy is KO'd." But that was the way Al was.
I didn't say a lot, but when you did talk, you know, you listened. We got cuffed across the head, you know, and mouthing off, and all of a sudden, whack. And, you know, ears ringing.
My husband had his first stroke March 21st, and he died the following August 28th, and he wasn't himself at all. You know, he couldn't really talk too much or walk or whatever. I think it was hard on the boys to see the way their dad went, because he was always big, strong man, and then for this to happen, it was pretty hard on the boys. I know that, but they never talked about it.
he never cried at his dad's funeral. That's how he was raised. You know, boys don't cry, men don't cry.
It sure makes you grow up quick. There's times that, you wish you had your dad around to get a man's perspective on, different situations you run into later in life. I think things would have turned out different if he would have been around a little longer.
And he left the day after the funeral. And the day after the funeral, one of my police friends drove him down to camp in Brantford. So he really didn't, grieve with his father, nothing, because he was gone. So I lost my husband, and the next day my son was gone to Brantford, junior hockey.
I just took it upon myself to kind of learn how to fight in junior hockey. Being one of the bigger guys, protect our teammates, right?
He didn't like fighting. He at least what he told me, he didn't. He did it because he did it. He had to do it.
There's a lot of guys on my team that skate a lot better than I can, they're faster. But when I was breaking up through the ranks, that was one way that I could get into the big leagues, was fight my way up.
Hang on, Darcy, these guys are still going at it. They just got out of the box again. They're at it again. It's and Marie.
We kind of got to wrestling, and it came over by the boards where my penalty box was, and just fell in. And he happened to be on the bottom. So I fell on top of him, and he's under the bench, and he's kind of throwing up like this, and I'm throwing down on him. And it was funny, he got up in the back of his jersey, all this shit from the ground.
I believe it is Baumgartner and Probert, and they were just talking the whole time in the penalty box, and he knew something was going to happen once those penalties expired.
It's not like Bob's problems are that unique in our game. I mean, obviously a system that takes children away from their parents at ages like 15 and 16 years old because they're basically professionals. I mean, they're playing, 80 games in order to support a system that makes them travel like that. And by its nature, it takes the kids out of school. It's really a business.
$80?
He certainly was brought up in a culture where drinking was, a centerpiece. The adjustment from being away from your parents is quite large because you're on your own at 15, 16.
I didn't graduate from high school. I didn't graduate. It was just kind of like the cool thing to be able to drink, more than anyone else. It was like 12 beers in a night. It made me feel good. It made me feel good. When I drank it, I thought I was always kind of a shy kid. And the booze turned me into someone that wasn't that shy, and I talked to girls, made it easier.
I recall in Brantford, even being under 19, him going into the bars there, they knew he was underage, and he would still go to the bars, take the waitress home or whatever. That led to him getting kicked out of his place in Brantford. He brought her into the crawl space at the billet's house, and where he was sleeping with the billet as well. And when he saw the girl getting snuck out in the morning, she really got upset over it. I think the billet got very jealous.
Slept with the landlord. She was 29, dark hair, big eyes. She called me and she come on in here, whatever, come on. I went in the bed, there she was laying on the bed. And then it was like, oh shit, why the frick did I do that? Now I gotta live there, right? And then I got the husband that I kind of got along with. Like, shit, what if he finds out? And everyone was doing it. My other teammate was banging his lady.
When he missed the Ontario Hockey League All-Star team, the game, he missed it because he was drinking the night before.
We got selected to go to the OHL All-Star game. You know, we went out and we had a few beers. Unfortunately, we slept in the morning, and we had a meeting at the rink the next day, and we were going to be suspended for 2 weeks from league play from the Alexanders. So you basically think the world is over, your hockey world's over, your dream is done, and in hindsight, it was a dumbass thing to do. So.
They drafted Mike that year. They drafted all guys over 6 feet because the year before they got really physically beaten up. And so they drafted big and they wanted to change things around in Detroit. And it was a perfect timing for me. Grew up watching the Red Wings and then finally actually making it and playing that first game. And I think I started. They did start me, so it was like the national anthem and just, you know, taking it all in. It was like just a rush, like it was a real thrill. I was very excited and nervous too, because, you know, you feel like everybody's watching you, right?
I want to talk about Bobby Probert. Is he beautiful or is he beautiful?
I mean, his reputation preceded him every place he went. And back in those days when there was a gunfighter, a young gunfighter, and they used to go up to him and say, "You want to go? I got to make a reputation." And he'd go, usually win. But if the guy survived, it would be all right.
I think I wanted to win more than the next guy.
Did you have your dad's words in your head?
Probably, yes. Yeah. You know, you gotta be strong, and if you lose a fight, then you're kind of looked at as, you know, kind of, I don't know, a loser or what.
The fighting has changed quite a bit. Back then it was, you know, let's see who can hit the hardest and who can knock each other down. He was the big boy on the block, without a doubt. Bob Probert was unbelievable for any team that he played for, because whenever he was dressed, the other team feared him so much that everybody on his team became bigger, stronger, braver.
And they are just hammering each other. My goodness. Look at these two trading punches. And I'll tell you, I can't believe it. Oh, wow. Man, oh, man.
The night before, you have a difficult time sleeping.
Probert, do you remember hits? Bob Rouse, and there's the helmet. You're going to see the piece of helmet come right off.
Probert's still loose. He's going to go after McGuire. Now he comes in with Probert. He's going to get suspended without a doubt. There's no question. Probert will. And we got Probert going at it with Ewan. I knew that was coming, boy. Look at Ewan. He decked Probert. Did he ever?
If he lost the fight, he would fight come out of the box. I remember we were young and we were in St. Louis, and he fought Todd Ewing. And down he went.
He certainly caught him with the right hand. Wow.
The whole time in the box, I could see him just fuming. And of course, in the old days, they came out of the box and right to each other, and Bob landed a lot of blows. And it was retribution of, you know, I can't lose.
My goodness. Now Probert, as he does so often in these fights, as it goes on, he seems to gain momentum, and now he's got Ewan backpedaling. Look at Probert has really messed up that right hand. He may have caught that on Ewan's helmet.
He would do crazy things. Like, he had no qualms about hitting a goalie. None whatsoever.
Denied by Keens. Keens traps it behind the net to Kruzak. Oh, and down on the ice, a heavy hit there.
Keens just got leveled by Probert.
Now watch Probert. I don't want to say Probert's tough or anything, but keep your eye on Butcher. Now watch, Riendo's pointing. Watch, don't point at Probert. Don't point at Probert because bad things happen to you. Don't. Isn't he a beauty?
That's brutal.
I know, that's terrible.
Sitting in the dressing room before a hockey game, he and I would pull out the roster for the other team, and we'd kind of pick and choose who was going after who first, who gets to run the goalie tonight. Because we knew when someone run the goalie, that's going to be a brawl.
Look out, everybody's into it.
I was fighting Bob Miguel, and that was a long fight because there's only 3 refs and everyone was fighting a big brawl. I just grabbed him, blam, and headbutt him. I had my helmet on still, and his fell off. It was just the next thing I thought of doing.
The first time I ever did coke, that was my first year pro, was the 80s. So every party you went to, people were in the can doing it. Everybody had it on them. It was amazing. Like probably 70, 80% of people back then was doing the stuff.
It was the 80s. You know, back in the 80s, they said it was, it was social. And if you were the mindset that me and Bob were you could keep drinking because of it. Well, and when the first time you did it, and you knew you could drink for another 3-4 more hours, well, then hell, scratch me in. Bobby was so valuable to the team, they looked the other way for a while. But until it hit the papers, man, they had to try to do something.
We were hitting all those bars. Going bar to bar, I must have went to like 5 different ones. Doing shooters.
I was drunk, and I came across the border. They let me through. I was shit-faced. Like, I was like blacked out. I barely remember coming across the border. And I made it out to Ouellette, and I made it like 2 blocks, and then hit the pole, and wiped out my car. My Monty SS, the one I bought with my signing bonus. So I only owned it about a year.
The concrete of the light standard crumbled to the ground. He carried on beyond that and drove through a window of the restaurant bar, and his car ended up right in front of the bar where people were seated at bar stools in this restaurant.
Put me in the doctor's bench. She comes in there and stitches me up. Separated cartilage in my ribs and cuts on my face. And I remember I only had 1 shoe on. I'm hobbling down the hall, there's an exit door right there, and I'm going like, just grab onto the door and how to open it? Hey, where do you think you're going? So then they grabbed me and brought me downtown and wanted me to blow. Maybe spend the night and let me out at 8 o'clock. I had to be in gym license office as soon as they let me out.
He had been gotten into a fight with several Windsor police officers, and he was beaten pretty badly. And, kind of impressed upon him, you're not a kid anymore. You're a professional athlete now. People are watching. People are going to be testing you. You're going to have to show some restraint.
So I get over there. I just walk in, tells me to sit down, and just started ripping me into my asshole for an hour. I'd say probably, like a half an hour straight, just yelling at me, telling me how much of an asshole I am. Which is probably true. But I wasn't like, hey, Bob, glad you're alive. It's like fucking, as soon as I walked in, just fucking, boom. Good to see you too, Jimmy.
His cross-examination went something like this. Mr. Probert, I understand that you are considered by many to be the heavyweight champion of the NHL. Bob fell for it and, of course, was quite proud to announce, yes, he was indeed a hockey player. Yes, he was a pretty good fighter, and he wouldn't want to fight himself. He was that good. So we had a break in the action. The case wasn't quite over, and he came out during the break, and He said, I wasn't very good, was I? In front of a criminal judge where it's alleged that you resisted arrest and you fought several officers and actually had the best of them for a period of time, those were not good answers.
After my first year pro, I got a couple drunk drivings. The team just basically said, he's going to treatment. I'm 21, I'm kind of, going to do what they say, right? I kind of had a thing with the women that worked there. And my mother, I called my mother and says, yeah, Mom, one of the girls that's a counselor is coming home with me. I couldn't believe I did that because I was still living with Mom's, right? So this girl came and my mom really liked her.
I do remember that he did bring somebody home, some girl. I don't know. She seemed like a nice girl, but I don't think he should ever have done that. You know?
Even some of his treatment counselors would fall for his line. And I'm thinking, these are seasoned treatment officers. They should know, everybody with those addictions becomes a con man or a con woman. He could con anybody into thinking everything was okay.
I was in probably, 3 treatment centers within the first 3 years. Stupid, because I still go to the bars with my teammates, and someone would, come on, Bob, have a shot. No, I'm not drinking. Come on, have a shot. No. And then finally I say, okay, and I drink.
First came to light that Bob totaled a car and was in jail in Windsor. And how you total a car in a 30-mile-per-hour zone, I don't know, but Bob managed to do it. And we had a meeting next day, and Jim Leitch said, how can he get this way? Who's following? Who's looking after this guy? And no one's sitting in the room. And I looked around, so I put my hand up, and that was the beginning of a tough love relationship. We were selfish, too. We knew how good Bob was and how he could help us. So we didn't fix it the way we really had to fix it. We wanted him clean up in 2 weeks. He spent a lifetime getting the way he did, and we thought we could fix it up in 7 to 10 days. We tried a lot of things. We went to Antabuse, which is a pill you take that makes you violently ill when you drink. We were standing around practice one day, and we could smell it, and I remember Steve Eisman and Jerry Gallant standing there. We're looking around at each other like, who drank last night? So I changed the pills in your office in the container. So I was giving him an Advil or something.
There wasn't just one private investigator. I think he had a team of people that would kind of keep tabs on Bob. It didn't last long. None of the news was very good.
There was a lot of Probert jerseys in there. I would say there's probably more Probert jerseys in there than there was any other jerseys that I remember. So, Bob was an asset to that team, and if he wasn't an asset, trust me, they wouldn't have put up with him as long as they did.
He was almost Mr. Detroit, and it was almost like he can do anything in Detroit and get away with it because he was so big in Detroit, and he was loved by his teammates.
He's the baddest guy on ice,
When Probie and I came to Detroit back in the early or mid-'80s, the Wings weren't winning. People started talking to us and calling us the Bruise Brothers, and a team would score a goal. There wouldn't be a whole lot of people standing up, but every time someone dropped their gloves, the entire stadium stood up.
Now they've got a fight tight, and closer falls Jimmy Kite. Probert now gets the right hand loose, and oh my God. And Kosar with a knockout punch on Gary Nyland. We're back live, and everything is broken loose here. Probert and Cochran. Oh, Probert just decked Cochran. Hey, that's it.
Nobody wanted to play against him. He scores, 29 goals that year and 398 penalty minutes, plays in the All-Star game.
Bob Probert
I mean, he was just that valuable.
From the Detroit Red Wings, in his All-Star game debut, one of the most rugged players in the league, number 24, right winger Bob Probert. On now comes Probert. Gretzky fires. He scores!
The ability to score 20 or more goals and the ability to operate as the heavyweight and champion of the NHL for the majority of his career, I think you'd be hard-pressed to find that combination, that package in one person throughout all of NHL history. It's pretty rare.
We're in the playoffs with Edmonton. That was the year they were a powerhouse. And I was having the best playoffs of my life. I just broke Gordie Howe's playoff point record, like 22 points. That's the year I had like 29 goals.
There was the night before the game that, 6 or 7 guys got caught missing the curfew, right? And then all the things started.
This time we just went to Goose Looney's, a popular club. Colin Campbell showed up at the bar. Says, you guys need to get back to the hotel now.
There was 8 or 10 other players there. A couple that were playing and a lot of guys who were hurt, and Bob was there, and I was more upset that they allowed Bob to drink. And when they all knew the problem he had.
Keith Gave, the asshole, he goes to Jacques Demers, who was our coach, and says, hey, I heard some of the boys were out drinking last night.
I looked at him and said, so, I understand Klima and Probert were out drinking last night. And Demers' face just kind of turned white, and he took a deep breath, and he leaned back, and he spilled his guts. He told us everything, which was highly unusual. We let Jacques just go on and on about how devastated he was, how disappointed he was, how his players were a bunch of idiots, how they let their teammates down, and on and on and on. Turned out to be a pretty good story.
He had a meeting and he says, guys, if you win tonight's game, it might be on the back page of the sports section. If you lose, it's going to be front page. Sure enough, we lost. It was front page.
Gretzky held it in. They score! Gary Curry!
We lost that game. We were down 3-1. Maybe they blame it on because we were out by the last. It was hard for me because Probert was the best player on the ice that night.
There's Bob Probert pictured on the front page here. And the headline is Red Wings star misses key goal, staying sober. One night after Bob Probert broke Gordie Howe's Red Wings playoff scoring record, he broke his coach's heart. It's about the Goose Looney's Institute in Edmonton.
You threw us all under the bus. You should have just said, hey, there's no truth to that. It's bullshit, and stuck up for us. Demers called me a cancer, he was a cancer on the team, blah, blah, blah.
Yes, that the couple of stories that we had the last couple of days has been reinstated that I was right because of what happened last night.
Keith Gave, that was a writer for the Detroit Free Press, very, very negative. I was hitting the papers all the time.
Probert's career misconduct chronology, it's called. And it goes on page after page after page of his issues with alcohol and other things. July 2nd, 1986, charged with assaulting a police officer after a scuffle at a Windsor bar. Shocker. August 1986, discharged from a Minnesota hospital after treatment for alcoholism. This is 1986. This is right after his rookie season in the NHL. And it goes on page after page after page.
Jacques created a certain amount of mess.
The rumors had gone as far as the ears of Coach Jacques Demers.
I would tell Jacques, we cannot discuss these issues. Peter Klima and Bob Probert's problems and issues. And that time also Kosher was having trouble with beating girls up and allegations, at least, of assaulting women in bars and stuff. We had a team out of control. And you cannot deal with it in the media. And Jacques just couldn't shut up. It was one of the most trying times of my life because I couldn't pick up the newspaper and not cringe.
I got to tell you this, too. I had written so much about Bob Probert and Peter Klima and others, and I felt like a hypocrite writing about some of the things they had to write about. The only difference between Bob Probert and me is that he got caught and I didn't. You know, I'm guilty of the same things, and many of us are. You know, having a few drinks in the press box, finishing up my story, hitting last call, driving home, certainly past the legal limit. I could have got caught and nailed any of a number of times I didn't. I was luckier than him.
I met Bob at the front desk at the Relax Plaza here in Windsor. He was staying there on a little hiatus. He was having some problems with his visa, I think, his work visa.
He was an arrogant asshole. He'd waltz in and waltz out of the lobby, and he had a gazillion girls calling him and coming to visit him. I was having a tough time with my boyfriend, and I figured, it'll be something to do, so I just went out with him.
The chemistry was just there. We went on our first date and we went to a Chinese food restaurant that his dad just loved in downtown Windsor, and we enjoyed that. And then we went out for some frozen yogurt, and it was his first time for frozen yogurt. And I fell for this doesn't smell right, smell this. And I got yogurt up my nose, and wasn't that cute? So I just, I don't know. Everything about him, he was just adorable, really was.
Just said, stay away from him. Yeah, all my instincts went up. You look like trouble.
I was kind of like getting out of control.
Cocaine made him slow down. Most times it's speeding you up, but with Bob, it slowed him down. You know, one of the things that Bob never got arrested when we were together. I guess he did get arrested because we were got in a scrap in Dallas. But yeah, you know what? I think we just went harder than others. I think that's basically how I can sum that up.
I remember him telling me about playing against the New York Islanders and not remember even being on the ice. He was so high.
It was brutal. Just didn't have energy. You felt like everyone knew that you were doing it, like almost that paranoid feeling. Like, they know 20,000 people watching you, right?
That was a drug that was widely used in the NHL.
Look out, Kellyos is going to get it now. Probert.
That's pretty scary when you got a guy chasing you around on the ice that's doing cocaine. It seems like it gave you this crazy strength and, this energy. So it was dangerous.
Kellyos could be vulnerable.
I'm saying it's not right. You're on that shit and you're running around. Probert was actually really sincere and somebody he goes, you're right.
I think the first time I really did notice that, whoa, was the night that he was caught at the border. To back it up, we were at the bar in Windsor and watching him behind the bar and drinking out of the bottle. And it was like a switch, seeing something that I hadn't seen before, like this nonstop, couldn't stop. And then going through the tunnel, him scrambling to hide things.
Last night, it was the Red Wings versus the Islanders. Today, it's the people of the United States versus Robert Allen Probert. The Red Wings star could face up to 20 years in prison if convicted of drug smuggling charges. Customs inspectors stopped him and 3 companions as they reached the American side of the Detroit-Windsor Tunnel. It was 5:15 a.m. If Customs' version is true, Probert was almost inviting a search.
The examining customs officer saw that his immigration document had expired. They noticed empty liquor containers and beer cans in the vehicle.
A check of Probert's pockets revealed a mill, a device often used to grind cocaine. A strip search followed. Inspectors say they found 14.3 grams of cocaine in Probert's underwear.
I think he really wanted to get caught. And talking to him later on, He basically said that. One of the customs immigration officers said to him, according to Bob, "Do you want to go in the washroom?" Bob said no. He said, "No, do you want to go in the washroom? Maybe you should go in the washroom." And Bob finally got the hint. The guy was helping him out. Bob had some cocaine with him, a whole bunch of cocaine. And the officer was saying, "Maybe you want to flush it down the toilet." And Bob was ready to flush it down the toilet. He said, "I can't do that." So he said, I sniffed it all in. He said, "I looked like I was having a powdered jelly donut when I walked out of there."
So I go in the bathroom, and as I'm peeing, like I pull it out, pull the rock out. I go over to the sink and let the sink run, and I'm sticking more up my nose, and it was all in my underwear. And except for the grinder, which was in my coat pocket. Right away they said, let me see your jacket, took it off, put it on the desk, they went through it, found it, opened it up, and I was fucked anyway, because there's like powder in there.
All right, Bob.
I was 21 years old, so the strip search was terrifying. And the questioning, now that I look back, it seems to maybe 15, 20 minutes. But probably 21-year-old Danny was probably feeling like it was an eternity. After that, I remember the sun coming up and everything hitting the news.
Probert is scheduled back in court March 22nd. He faces not only a possible jail term, but banishment by the National Hockey League. And the Immigration and Naturalization Service says it will seek to deport Probert regardless of the outcome of this drug case.
The arrest of Bob Probert on cocaine charges could certainly devastate his career.
Today's news comes as a tremendous disappointment to the Red Wings. His drinking problem, of course, has been well documented. He's been in alcohol rehabilitation clinics 5 times in the past.
Officials found over 14 grams of cocaine in his possession. For Probert, a possible jail term in his future. For the Red Wings, a hidden sigh of relief.
The day after that, I stayed there, and he just wanted to get high again. I got the full blame from the whole family. Why wasn't I driving? And I was with him, and sure, she doesn't do drugs. Of course she does drugs. She was with him, wasn't she?
For some reason, can't help himself. Are drugs the demon that's ruined him? Those close to him have to share responsibility for his demise? Or is Probert just bent on self-destruction, a cruel and willing accomplice in his own ruination?
If somebody runs afoul of the rules, they ought to suffer the consequences. I know a lot of people express that.
I feel sorry for his parents, and it's a rough mark for the city of Windsor.
I think he should be thrown in jail. You don't have any sympathy for him at all? No. He should have been kicked out of NHL a long time ago.
The media coverage, I don't even think, was guilty of sensationalizing when they, predicted that it was the end of his career, that he would most certainly be incarcerated, most certainly be deported upon completion of his incarceration, and off it went.
For all you kids out there, all you young hockey players, I just want to say something. Think of something when somebody offers you some junk or something like that. Think of Bob Probert. Here's a guy, big guy, 6'3", 3-year contract. He had Detroit in the palm of his hand. Everybody loved him. Coach loved him. He walked in a room. Every eye turned to him. Now it's all gone.
Stevie, out of everybody, was awesome. Like, he never said anything really bad. He always wished me the best.
I do sympathize or have sympathy for Bobby because I think his problems have gone beyond his own control, and I think even if he wanted to change, he needed more help than just himself to do it.
He's got to get his life straightened out, and until he does that, he's not really good to himself or to us.
First couple times, you say, well, he screwed up, and let's give him a chance. But now it's been about, maybe 12, 15 times, so I don't think we feel sorry for him now.
Where other teammates, you know what, he should be thrown out of the league. He should never be allowed back in. The Worm said that. He should be banned for life and never be allowed back in the league. Those fucking comments. You don't say that about your teammate. I was protecting these guys, and here they go and badmouth me like that.
Probert walked into the courthouse not knowing if he would walk out again a free man. Facing Judge Patrick Duggan, the tears welled up in his eyes as he tried to speak. Probert told the judge that he was sorry for what he had done, Sorry he'd let his teammates, his family, his friends, and his fans down.
It really hurt to see the people I let down that still care about me.
Would you like to be able to play hockey someday?
I would like to get back into hockey. I do miss it, and you know, there's a few things that have a few obstacles in the way right now. But yes, I would like to play hockey again someday.
Yeah, I was just thinking, you know, I mean, it didn't seem that bad, like 6 months. It was brutal because for a guy that doesn't like to be cooped in, and that was brutal because I look out the window every day and see the double fences and see the cars patrolling around there, and knowing that I can't go anywhere. Then they stuck me in with this guy that was 18 years old and was doing 14 years for killing his best friend. Apparently got in a fight with his best friend and pulled out a knife and killed him. Fucking sleeping with one eye open.
I remember visiting Bob in Rochester, Minnesota when he was at the federal facility there. Never been to a federal prison before. It's an intimidating thing, you know. They fingerprint you and you go in there to visit. And we probably spent an hour with Bob visiting. He was, you know, nervous and anxious, as you would expect a 24-year-old guy to be.
I was having a cigarette, and lieutenant or whatever, a big guy in charge, came over and said, "Hey, it's not break time, get back to work." I said, "All right, no problem." We left. I just stayed there, kept smoking. He comes back, he goes, "Hey, you're still here. I told you it's not break time yet, get back to work." I said, "For 11 cents an hour, you can take this job and shove it right up your ass."
Probert takes the ice, and I mean, I get chills thinking about it. You know, the crowd starts chanting his name.
And the crowd reacting to number 24, Bob Probert, taking his first shift this afternoon.
You know, I was nervous. I didn't know what to expect. I mean, 4 games left of the season, and sure, I was a little choked up a little bit.
Yeah. Carson for Probert. Let's the shot go. Bingo! Woo-hoo!
Yeah, I got a goal.
What a smoke.
I just wanted to prove that I belong there. I was definitely hoping to be back.
And watch what happens here. Right? Probert stepped on the stick right there.
We were fighting, and all of a sudden I stepped on a stick, and I kind of slid, and that's when he hit me, eh?
Right. I remember that very well.
Yeah. I still fought him after that, but like he hit me one, and I was bleeding, but I was still fighting him, and then, you know, eventually the refs broke it up.
Probert Crowder was going to be, well, he's dethroned Bob Probert. Probert decided to just mark.
Well, Bob, I don't think it really lost a fight up until that point, so it was a big thing, and momentum started building. Like, I was the new up-and-coming guy, and he was the reigning king, so there was the hype grew.
They said, let's go, and away they go. Crowder gets a couple of early ones in.
I always said it was kind of like riding a bullet. You better hold on. You better stay on top of it, because he seemed to get more worked up as the fight went on.
The two of them face to face right in front of the New Jersey bench. Bruce Probert gets a right. The crowd now into that, but Probert nails. He knocks him down.
I know Ron McLean and Don Cherry had drove down to come watch the game.
We got a fight coming up here. Show it. All right, here he goes. Now watch the helmet go flying. This is a great fight. This is a return of Probert and Crowder. 20,000 people. This is a knockout coming up here.
Ron McLean and I, we went to Detroit, and it was like a heavyweight championship fight. It was unbelievable. In Detroit, they didn't care. The puck was at the far end. They just kept their eye on Bob and Troy. And sure enough, they get into it. And Bob hit Troy so hard, his helmet went about 10 feet in the air. And they had two beauties. Everybody knows I don't think he ever got beat. I can't remember him. He might be somebody, but I don't remember him ever being beat.
Here comes Manson now.
Look at this. You got Grimson, that's Probert, and here they go. Grimson came right out of the Chicago bench, came after Probert, and was jawing at him. He wanted him to go, and he got his win.
I think it had a lot to do with just his personal disregard for his own physical well-being. He wasn't the least bit concerned about getting hit. The emotional drain of having to get up for a battle with a guy like Probert, that can really consume your thoughts and your state of mind.
Gee, you look out big-time dandies there, baby. Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
You just feel like there's no way you could hurt him.
He had that Bob Probert look like, I want to kill you.
Now we're going to have a scrap. Probert and Simpson drop the gloves at center.
He wanted to kill you every time he fought.
And Probert got in another. Oh, and an uppercut landed from Probert, and now he's slugging away.
With the right hand loose, got a couple into Probert. Probert hasn't even begun to fight yet.
There was two sides of Bob, and you just didn't want to be in the wrong one.
We got Probert and Quick, two of the heavyweights.
For Bob's generation of hockey, he was the measuring stick. How does he stack up? If you're the measuring stick, that means you're the man.
These guys are pure heavyweights in this league. Wow.
You're going to fight the biggest kid at your school in the field, and everybody's going to watch.
When he was in his wild and crazy days in Detroit, you never knew what he was going to do.
Detroit comes away, and the fight's on Bob Probert. Oh, man, that's Jeremy Roenick. Jeremy Roenick and Probert. Now the Blackhawks are trying to get in.
They got to get in. There's no choice here. I mean, Jeremy Roenick is a tough kid that's a gamer, but that's silly for him to stand toe-to-toe to Bob Probert.
It was that sense of not knowing that sometimes was more fearful about Bob.
Probert again sends it in. Probert and McSorley. Oh, Probert took a swing at him. Probert and McSorley. They're bumping. They're talking. Yeah.
I know that he was extremely tired, and I know 2 or 3 different times that the linesmen started to come in and then they got out. I think that the linesmen were a little bit surprised just at the fact that we were both looking to keep fighting. And part of it is because of that's who we are. I mean, he wasn't going to give an inch, and I wasn't going to give an inch.
They're not done yet. Oh, no.
As another tough guy, going up against him, you may win, you may lose, but you knew that you had a hell of a fight.
They can't step into these punches. This is one of the longest fights I've ever seen. I've never seen one go this long with officials watching.
His finger was stuck into one of the holes in my helmet. I heard Bobby say my finger's stuck, and I put my head kind of down. I didn't want to jerk my head, and I said to the linesman, take his finger out. So the linesman kind of reached over in Bob's finger, and then Bob just kind of acknowledged, that the fact that, I was trying to be honorable and respectful, with somebody that does the job under that criteria.
Lord almighty.
Not getting paid any extra money to fucking go out there and fight. I mean, you've seen the contracts in the paper. Sure. But, they call me the best fighter in the league. Fuck, okay, I'm the best fighter. The heavyweight champ, as every fucking newspaper says it. But pay me like the fucking heavyweight champ then.
Norm went to Czechoslovakia. I mean, he had a decent hockey career, and he could have went places, and Bob felt that he had to make it up to Norm. He was the one who made it, and Norm didn't, and he carried a lot of guilt. And Teresa and Norm were famous for heaping on the guilt, and Bob taking it on and feeling horrible. His brother didn't want him marrying me. I think that he was worried I was taking something away from him.
I hated that.
He was going to get a stack of money and head to Vegas with his brother. I think it was my maid of honor and my mom discussing in the hallway a little bit of, yeah, they're looking for Bob. They couldn't find Bob. And I was detecting a little bit of panic in the room.
It was a train wreck, right? It wasn't a smooth transition to get Bob to the wedding facility, I can tell you that.
On behalf of my mother and I and the rest of the Probert family, I'd like to welcome Danny Elwood to the family.
Bob, I'd just like to say, take care of our baby. You're the son that Leslie never had. You've taken the daughter, it's very precious to us, and we love you both very much, and we wish you the best of life from here on in.
The swirl of activity that always surrounded Bob was not something I was ever really comfortable with. You know, it was a frenetic pace. It was just high energy is probably the best way. Anything he did was always high energy.
Needless to say, on July 1st, 1993, 45 minutes late, we did get married, so it happened.
Here is the newlyweds, Bobby and Danny. Is she beautiful or what? Here it is. Oh, get a close-up. All right, now listen, I got to ask you the question. Is he as tough at home as he is on the ice?
Big teddy bear.
Big teddy bear! Push you around, eh?
When I found out I was pregnant, wasn't happy, threw the pan, thought I trapped him. It was ugly. He was backed off. I think I cried after he left.
Baby girl, come on. Holy cow, look at that. He's a big one.
With Brogan, I was doing that with or without him. Didn't matter. That was it. And then so he was not happy about that. And no, he didn't settle down when I was pregnant. He was wilder than ever.
I went up to the deli on the corner, and the Russian owner, come on, Bob, do a shot. Before you know it, it's Russian tradition to do a shot, another shot, another shot. Anyway, I jumped on my motorcycle. I was going to go to the casino, and I wrecked it. The light turned yellow, and I was kind of like, I was fucked up. I clipped the front of the Lexus. I was flying through the air. The whole intersection was cement, and I landed on the one corner with I think I hit the cement and then flipped onto the grass because I split my elbow open and separated my shoulder.
I spoke later to one of the arresting officers that was there, and he told me that when he leaned over Bob trying to find out if he was okay, Bob said to the officer, "Just arrest me with the usual."
I went to the hospital, and the doctor took blood and told the cops, okay, I took him to the back room and says, I think you guys should know this, and showed them the results. So now they knew there was cocaine in my system.
He was handcuffed to a bed in a room when I walked in. And he cried when he saw me. He cried when he saw me in my full 8 months of pregnancy. He was always worried about hurting me or hurting the kids or the pain he caused others. So him laying eyes on me, seeing me waddle in, that it hit him. He knew he screwed up big.
The cops released it to the press, so now it was headlines, Probert on coke, question mark.
The media is once again blown up. They have every right to think that his career's over,
then it's announced in the media that the Red Wings have cut him loose. The phone rings. They're inviting us to come to Chicago the next day. 24 hours later, Bob and I are in Mr. Wirtz's beautiful townhouse on Lake Drive in Chicago, and an accident that should have killed him took him to a $1 million annual raise.
He was devastated that he had to leave. A week after Brogan was born, he went out to California and had to go to rehab. And Brogan and I left Chicago and went back to our house in Michigan. And basically, I raised her by myself for the next 7 months.
And Mommy's first walk.
They just kept me in there in the rehab center. I was there 8 months.
Okay.
Okay, the strap's going back, right? Huh?
When I went to Chicago and signed my contract, for me, that was huge money, $1.5 million a year for 4 years. Granted, I missed the first year. They didn't pay me that whole year, so I lost $1.5 million. But, so they were piss testing me. So I had a choice, stay straight and get my money, and then when it's all over, then I can do what I want.
Everything changed. Everything changed instantly.
Who's king?
Grover's dead.
5.
Bye, Brogan. Bye.
Bye, Brogan.
Going to Chicago, it was full-time recovery. So he had 8 years of sobriety in Chicago.
Oh, trick-or-treating. Daddy was out of town the last couple of years, wasn't he? You gonna have fun? You gonna get lots of candy? Okay.
What do you say when you knock on the door?
Chick-a-cheese.
Which one's your favorite pumpkin, Brogan?
Chick-a-cheese.
Just like that. Which one's your favorite pumpkin?
Which one do you like better out of the two?
Dada.
Yeah, that's Daddy's.
All of the cushions off the couch and us bouncing around, whether it was jumping on the bed or listening to oldies and having a good time, and Bob dancing with the kids and each of them getting thrown around and having so much fun.
Everything was adrenaline-based. It had to be on the boat, tubing. It had to be on the dirt bikes, on the four-wheelers, on the motorcycles. Like, we were on motorcycles before we could even walk. We were sitting with him, so everything was just on the go all the time.
He loved his duck call, which I'm sure the other kids will say that. That duck call, he'd be like, ah, from like a mile away.
This I gotta get. Big Bob.
Professional athlete right now.
There you go. Wrong way. Oh my God, you're so graceful.
Send it in. Okay, enough.
A lot of people thought that I played better when I was boozing, because in my periods when I got straight, it was like, you know, he doesn't seem as mean, he doesn't seem, you know, he's too even keel.
The first half of his career, where he wasn't looking at you, he just seemed to be staring past you, and you were almost a non-entity in the equation. He had just this kind of faceless countenance almost, and you were waging war with this inanimate being.
Bob Probert will do this because he's kind of just waiting and waiting now.
I didn't see that same version of Bob towards the end of his career. He seems far more human, far more mortal than he used to.
The guys started getting bigger, and then they got like Rock and Brashear, and then they started getting like as big as me, if not a little bigger, so they got a little longer reach.
Check in, baby. There you go. You're looking good.
Then he decides to shoot himself up with steroids in September because now he's panicked about his job and is he going to have a thing. So now he decides him and a teammate are going to put steroids in their ass. Then he weighs in at camp. Huge. But it slows you down.
He was on the last year of his contract, and he wasn't under that drug, alcohol, or gambling policy at the beginning of the year, and you just saw him slowly starting to fall off the wagon a little bit. You know, they call him the night before, and as soon as the door knocked, you knew it was the guy going to be taking his sample, and before he answered the door, he would take that urine that was clean and put it in a microwave for, I don't know, a small amount of seconds. He knew the temperature where the pee has to be for when they take the temperature, they know it's real. You know, he wanted to do something, he found ways to do it.
His intake of the pills were pretty excessive. I remember he would take Oxy-80s, and what he would do is dip them in Coca-Cola to take the time release off them, and use one of those foot file scrapers, scrape them down and snort them. I hated seeing it, and I remember up to him doing like 18 of them a day, and that's enough to kill anybody.
It was legit. He had back pain. There were days that I had to push him out of bed with both feet to help him get up. There's no denying that he was in a lot of pain. But you know, the doctor's quick to prescribe the opioids.
I think in the end, the opiates got a hold of him and took him down.
You got to remember, Bob was in a lot of fights, and you know, he lived in bodily pain daily, and you know, that's what they gave him, and they're so easy to get addicted to.
Hockey players abuse their bodies. Fighters really abuse their body. Like, you're jamming shoulders and backs and necks and hands. And so I had many, many friends that were fighters that did a lot of pills.
I don't think the average everyday person would never understand the punishment we put our bodies through every day, the stress, the strain, the beating. And I mean, it's constant and it's every day. I can tell you all, but you couldn't imagine.
He had CTE. Dr. McKee, in her, in the conference call that we had, basically was saying that on a scale from 1 to 4, he was a 2, bordering on a 3. You can't sit there and speculate whether or not he would have had dementia, early onset dementia, Alzheimer's, but the likelihood was yes.
I remember just playing hide and seek with him one day, and I kid you not, probably the same space between me and you, and I was standing right in front of him, and he honestly couldn't even see me. Like, it's like I wasn't even there to him, and I was literally talking to him, and he was just like, very confused, and you could bring up something that happened a couple hours ago, and he wouldn't know, or he wouldn't remember.
I don't want to get into that shit, you see? If I get into concussions, you notice in Coach's Corner, I never talk about concussions. You're really getting into something. You guys better be very careful, because that's a touchy subject right now.
Looks like he didn't want to drop it first, and Vandenbush got the machine gun moving the left. Boy, oh boy, he hit him right on the butt.
The reason I had to leave the game ultimately was due to post-concussion syndrome.
Domi comes up with a hit. Domi has hit himself. And Domi's cut, as you can see, as he went head first into the glass.
I don't want to know. I always say I tell doctors that are trying to get me in these scanning machines, I don't want to break their machines, you know. But the reality is, I should be taking care of myself because of things that happen to guys like Bob and other people. But I think it's just us, their stubbornness and stuff. So I'm trying to change a little bit at a time to really think of my kids and my family, my wife, and everybody, because it's real. And life is a very delicate thing. And I think when you're not prepared for it, like nobody was for Bob, anything can happen to anybody at a given time.
And then Flynn goes down and takes another right hand, and more right hands from Parker.
I've hit some people pretty hard, and I felt things break, and I felt things shift, and I felt things move, and I think to myself, oh no. And you kind of have that, sense of, oh shit, what did I just do?
Here we go. Chara and Parker.
It was almost a war mentality, like kill or be killed.
Oh, Probert hit him with a right. Another one.
Getting punched really hard in the head does do, things to you over time. And, at the end of the day, you do want a quality of life where you want to be able to hold your kids and do things with your kids and not be cooped up in a basement because light affects you so bad that it just sends you into a tizzy.
He retired and called me, and he was devastated that he retired, like it was done. He never came home that night. He went with a bunch of teammates down to Vegas and didn't come back when he was supposed to. And that's the weekend I realized he had relapsed. He didn't come home for the twins' birthday.
The post-career is tough on a lot of guys. Plenty of players struggling with that, not being around the guys, not having your regiment schedule to follow, and being on the bus, being at the rink at certain times. So you find yourself with so much time and nothing to do. You miss the guys.
Good morning, Merry Christmas 2002.
He's farting all the time.
I wouldn't get too close.
It takes its toll on you. And I think, Bob felt that, and, like I did. We felt like we were kind of letting the team down, the fans down, and, it was a tough time. And, then you're left with nothing, and you're home with a wife and kids, and, it just, you don't have that void, that adrenaline rush you need to fill.
Donna, it's beautiful.
Oh, Merry Christmas.
Christmas afternoon. How are you?
How is it?
Don't worry, we've been videotaping you. We've been putting toys on your head. Frog stuck to you, everything you haven't even noticed.
Logan, where's my toys?
Honey.
Just kick my butt.
I'll give you a family shot.
Uncle Rob.
How's that for a family shot?
Get in there. Give him I want some lemons here.
Uncle Rob.
Can you feel the love? Can you feel the love this Christmas morning?
Oh, do.
He just wanted to go AWOL. He just wanted to disappear and, didn't want us to see this side of him. He wanted to protect us from that bad side of who he was. But no, he was very ashamed. I know, you could see it in his face. That was just something in his eyes. You could see the sadness when he would come home. And that would be so heartbreaking.
Dear disease, you have taken away my freedom to make healthy choices. You have taken away my valuable time from my wonderful wife, Danny, and my 4 kids. You have taken away my self-respect and dignity. You have turned me into someone I am not. You have hurt me financially. You have controlled my thoughts and my feelings. You took me away from things I used to do to have fun. You took away my ability to keep promises by running my will. At times, you took me away from people that truly love me. You took away from me our twins' birthday. You took away from me Christmas of 2002. You took a lot from me, but that is about to stop, to change.
That's when it was that he ended up going to Florida, to the Karen Foundation. That was the rehab that really helped him, really clicked. He was doing the halfway house
part of it.
I met some people, it was like, wealthy people went to this club, right? So I started talking to this guy and this girl, talking about some coke, and I said, well, I know a place we can go. So I'm driving her Lexus. So I went to this one area that I kind of knew, and there's a guy that made a comment, some smart-ass comment on her, and I said, well, jumped out of the truck. I said, what the fuck are you? And before I know it, out of nowhere, like an undercover truck came on the ground. And I'm like standing there, I didn't do anything, which I didn't. I said, I didn't do anything. They told me a couple more times, I'm like, I didn't fucking do anything. And they shot me with a taser. And I was starting to get up when they came over and hit me another. And then I remember the second time, I was like, eh. And as soon as it stopped, I'm like, geez, I'm glad that's over. And they hit me again with it.
He was arrested, tasered 3 times. Yeah, 3 times. Soiled himself, was thrown in jail, got accused for trying to clog the plumbing, but it was his, he was trying to rinse out his boxers. Not one of his greatest highlights in his life, that's for sure. It was a terrible time.
When Bob was drinking, he had like he was a different person. He wasn't Bob. I think when he drank, he turned off that family switch.
A couple guys were here. We were drinking, and somebody gave me a bag of mushrooms. I just remember being fucked up. Anyway, my one friend and I started wrestling around in the garage, and we ended up falling on the porch, punching holes, and we just got kind of stupid, and I was kind of out of it. And I remember Danny said something to me, and she said I came in and see that block of knives there? I grabbed the knives and threw them like on the floor.
Oh, so you would get in danger.
Yeah, and she got a little freaked out on that.
I don't think I've ever seen him that messed up. It was crazy. Like, he had crazy eyes, and the way he was acting, and he was flipping out, and he had the butcher block of knives. I had called my father, and I didn't know what to do, and he's like, you need to hang up and call 911.
He was just grabbing things and throwing them, and there was just no getting through to him. Say, slow down, you're ruining your house, or you're gonna hurt somebody, slow the hell down. And finally, the cops came and grabbed him and toned him down.
They came and maced me. Yeah, they maced me and then jumped on me and took me in.
He was pepper sprayed on the front porch. And I remember seeing that. I was angry with the police for taking him away. I didn't understand, he's my dad, he's my superhero, he can't be doing anything wrong.
I packed up the kids and took off for a while.
When they had that little trial period there, maybe that scared him. Maybe he thought he was going to lose her. The thought of losing her would have devastated him.
We came back within a couple of weeks, and I think that's when we buckled down and started, coming up with some plans as far as what needed to be done next. He did see that his actions, how they were affecting the kids. And that's when he was getting his shit together. That's when he was starting to be more present and more involved, not missing things, more responsible. There's a lot of things I miss about that guy. Yeah, he didn't care. No concept of time, that was Bob. But him walking down the hall, and I could picture it in our old house, and he would start at Brogan's room, and he would say, they could be sound asleep or they could be reading a book. Didn't matter. Good night, Brogita Chiquita.
Go eat a Chiquita banana, give her a kiss. I love you. Then he would go to T. Rose or T.T. Lee, Tierney Rose, have to announce this little goofy name that he would have for them. And same thing, I love you and a kiss goodnight. And then into Ducky's room with his famous duck call and give her the I love you and a kiss goodnight. And the last one would always be Jack, my boy. And the same, I love you, good night. It would always come in, Dan, baby, Dan. And I would get the same thing. So whether he's working on the car or the motorcycle, putzing around in the garage, or going into the kitchen to make some toast, or one of his favorite late night snacks, we all got the good nights, I love you. And then he'd go off and do his thing, or he'd just go to bed. Okay. Yeah, that one always gets me. Okay, pull it together. Let's go. Well, we left the house at around 1 o'clock. It was a hot day. And we took off heading east. We were further down the lake, and we were coming in this direction, coming here in Belt River for lunch. There was a noise coming from the boat. And he was, 6'4" and 200 and whatever, bent over on a 95-degree day over the side of the boat, working his way. And he was mid-boat when he got to, he just collapsed. He was on his knees. And that's when I could see his face, and I could see his lips going. His lips were black. His lips kept changing color in his tongue, and I could see that. And they laid him down, and my stepfather, as a police officer, he started to perform CPR, doing the chest compressions and mouth-to-mouth. And I immediately called 911, and I was disoriented. I couldn't see where we were. I knew we were past the sandbar. I didn't know how far. It was hard to pinpoint where we were.
His face was completely blue. He was purple and blue, and that's why I said, Dad, I love you, because I wanted to be able to remember what my last words were to him.
And I just remember saying, baby, where are the keys? I can't find the keys. And he managed to touch the seat. So I knew the keys were tucked in behind the seat. They must have fallen back. And I grabbed the keys, and I only started the one engine. It was a jet boat. I didn't start both engines, and I couldn't understand why we weren't going. And then Kai made it to the boat, and that was my first introduction to Kai. And he jumped on the boat, and I got on his jet ski, and he brought the boat in to shore.
I went to them and asked them what's wrong. And then Danny says, can you bring the boat in?
I just remember screaming for the paramedics and running to the road and flagging down the paramedics to get to the shore and help me with Bob, get them to the dock. And then to get my kids off the boat and everybody out of the way. And I just remember coming on shore, rushing to the road, getting the paramedics to the back, and then clearing off the boat, getting the kids off and placing them over by the fence area.
And we made it to the hospital, and all I could think of as the drive to the hospital was calling up people to get my kids rounded up. I had Declan at a sleepover birthday party, and Brogan was at that new job. And I was so afraid that they were going to hear something on the radio. So I had to get them rounded up and get everybody home. And just keep them protected. And this whole time, I didn't know that Bob had died. I hadn't been told yet. And they called us, my mom and I, into a separate room, and the doctor came. And the doctor came in and told me that he didn't make it.
I was walking upstairs and then my phone went off and someone's like, "I'm so sorry to hear about your dad." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And they're like, I'm sorry about your dad. Like, I'm sorry to hear about him. I'm sorry that he passed away." And I responded, I was like, "He's not dead. He's just in the hospital. He's gonna be fine. He's not dead." Because the news outlets heard about it before we did. So people started texting us.
I remember walking in, and all of them in a little huddle in the family room around the coffee table. And they all looked up at me when I walked in. And all I could say was, "Your dad loved you so much." And I couldn't get out anymore.
Your dad loved you very much. And but they couldn't do anything else to help him. And that's when at that moment we all just broke. And I went out back and I started crying outside. Everyone was just crying everywhere. My cousin was there and we were all just like, there's no way that happened. He was he was so full of life and he was just such a big presence in our lives that just to think that, oh, he's gone like that.
That was July 5th, 2010.
It was a massive heart attack. It wasn't very good. Not good at all. It was such a shocker.
We did everything together. We were only 13 months apart. He was someone that you always seemed was invincible, I guess. You know, that's why it was such a shock when he died. You know, he always seemed to survive anything, you know. But, yeah, it's still hard to believe.
I recall the All-Star game in St. Louis in 1989. Walking into the locker room with all the players, the great players, Wayne Gretzky, Mark Messier, all the top players in the game. We walked into that locker room and all of them, all they wanted to do was meet Kobe. Remember them coming over to ask me, introduce me to the big fella. You know, he was revered by all the great players around the game. And it wasn't just because he was the top guy, it was because he was a great player. Bob will always be remembered as a good, proud man, and we'll sorely miss him.
I was sad that he wasn't there for me graduating college or for my prom. And I know a wedding one day, if that happens, that's definitely gonna be hard because, you know, there's no one there to walk you down the aisle or to have that first father-daughter dance. So yeah, I know that in the future, and if I'm having babies and he doesn't get to meet them and they don't get to understand how cool of a person my dad was, those are definitely things that, yeah, I miss him being here.
You're just like, wow, like, I wish I had him to give me advice on this, or I wish I could have a hug, or I wish I could just hear him laugh again. There's like certain things you don't know when you expect that you would need him to help you grow throughout certain situations in your life. And every day is different. Every day you think about him more, you miss him more. And sometimes it's always gonna be in the back of your head, but some days it's just, wow, I wish I had him here to get me through this day.
Having it absent is definitely difficult sometimes. But then you look around and you're like, you know what? He would be proud of me regardless. And just because he's not here physically doesn't mean he's not looking down on us, because I think he is.